I made my daughter apologize to her teacher for her Halloween costume. My 7-year-old Sophie has always been obsessed with Halloween. She starts planning her costume in July and changes her mind a dozen times before settling on something. This year, she decided to be a witch. Nothing fancy, just a black dress, pointy hat, and a crooked walking stick she made from a branch in our yard. Sophie's teacher, Miss Martinez, is the sweetest woman you'll ever meet. She's been teaching for 15 years and treats every student like her own child. Sophie absolutely adores her and talks about her constantly at home. She's always saying things like, "Miss Martinez showed us the coolest science experiment today," or "Miss Martinez says I'm getting really good at reading." The morning of Halloween, Sophie was bouncing off the walls with excitement. She'd been practicing her witch walk around the house for weeks, punching over her stick and making cackling sounds. She even convinced me to let her wear her costume to breakfast, complete with a pointy hat that kept falling into her cereal bowl. At school, the Halloween parade was a huge success. All the kids marched around the playground showing off their costumes while parents took pictures. Sophie was beaming as she shuffled along with her witch act, and I snapped dozens of photos. Miss Martinez even complimented Sophie's creativity and authentic-looking stick. During morning circle time back in class, each student got to present their costume. There were superheroes, princesses, dinosaurs, the usual mix. Sophie waited patiently for her turn, clutching her walking stick and whispering her witch lines under her breath. When Miss Martinez called on her, Sophie stood up proudly. She hunched over her stick, tilted her head to one side, and started walking in a slow, exaggerated crooked line across the classroom. She dragged one foot slightly behind the other, let her left arm hang loosely, and added little stumbles for effect. All the kids laughed and clapped enthusiastically. Sophie was in her element, cackling and stirring an imaginary cauldron. She even threw in some dramatic moaning sounds. Miss Martinez watched with what seemed like genuine amusement and gave her a round of applause when she finished. The rest of the morning went perfectly. Sophie helped hand out Halloween treats, participated in the class pumpkin carving, and was chosen to read a spooky story aloud. She loved being the center of attention and kept doing little witch gestures throughout the activities. During lunch, I was actually bragging to other parents about how creative Sophie's costume was. I showed them videos I'd taken of her performance, and everyone was laughing and saying how adorable she looked. One mom even asked where Sophie got the idea for such an authentic witch walk. Then around 1 p.m., my phone rang. It was Mrs. Henderson, the principal, and she sounded unusually serious. "Mrs. Johnson, I need you to come to school immediately. There's been an incident involving Sophie." She wouldn't explain what happened over the phone, which made my stomach drop. I raced to the school, my mind spinning with possibilities. Had she gotten hurt? Been in a fight? Broken something expensive? When I arrived at the principal's office, the scene was nothing like I expected. Sophie was sitting in a chair, her witch hat crumpled in her lap, tears streaming down her face. Miss Martinez was there too, but she looked devastated rather than angry. The air in the room felt thick and uncomfortable. Mrs. Henderson closed the door and sat behind her desk with a grave expression. "Several parents called after lunch pickup," she began slowly. "They're saying Sophie was mocking Miss Martinez's cerebral palsy during her costume presentation." I stared at her, completely confused. "What's cerebral palsy?" That's when I learned that Miss Martinez has cerebral palsy. The slight limp I'd barely noticed, the way she sometimes braced herself against her desk, it all suddenly made horrible sense. Sophie's witch walk had perfectly mimicked her teacher's condition. Miss Martinez spoke through tears. "I've worked so hard to not let this define me in the classroom, but seeing a student imitate how I move," Sophie sobbed. "I was just being a witch. I didn't know." The school suspended her for 3 days for discriminatory behavior.